Hello, my name is Sylvester Henderson. I am the CEO of Professor for Life Incorporated, which is an organization that interviews well-known professionals and academics all over the world. And I am so honored today to be able to interview Dr. Kris Brown, Ph.D., who is the Human Resource Director for Huntsville Utility from Huntsville, Alabama. So I want to say this morning, welcome, Dr. Brown.
Hello. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Dr. Brown, could you introduce yourself to our digital media academic world and professional world? Tell us where you grew up, share your academic journey, where you attended college, and your degrees, and all those things.
Yes, absolutely. So, as Mr. Henderson said, my name is Dr. Krishana Brown. I go by Kris Brown, and I am the original. I
Okay.
am a native of Huntsville, Alabama, born and raised. And as far as my matriculation through school, I actually started off at a junior college at Calhoun Community College, and I got my associate's degree in general education studies. And from there, I transferred to Athens State University, where I pursued my Bachelor of Business Administration with a concentration in human resource management. From there, I attended the Alabama A&M University on the Hill. And from there, I received my master's degree, my master's of science degree in personnel administration. Um, After I pursued my master's, I took a couple of years off. Then got my certification in human resources, in human resources under HRCI and SHRM, and decided that I still wanted to continue my education. I actually did attend law school for 1 year, and was thinking about pursuing my Juris Doctorate degree. Um, but I really did not want to pursue or practice law per se. And the school that I was attending was all the way in California. Anyone that has went to law school and taken a mini bar for California versus the rest of the world, it is very different. So I decided at that point in time, I said, well, I still want to continue my education. So then I went to Northcentral University and pursued a Doctor of Business Administration degree with a concentration in organizational leadership.
Wow. You know what? You have all the great kudos from me, especially because you started at the community college, and I was a community college professor for close to 40 years. And so I
Oh,
am so grateful to
mhm.
have the opportunity to interview you. Thank
Oh,
you.
well, thank you.
You know what, the I want to ask you a question. How do you design a long-term workforce architecture that balances regulatory compliance, technological modernization, generational turnover, and the unique operation demands of a public utility company?
Well, that's long. uh, Listen, I've been interviewing today, and now I'm being interviewed in the hot seat. I First of all, you have to have a strategic plan put in place, and so that's one of the things that I did. Working with my team, is that we got together to be able to brainstorm, determining what the business needs were, and then as far as regulatory things and with the administration of our government, things can change daily, weekly, and every time the administration changes, there's something that changes, about it within their policy and so forth. And so, human resources professionals have to be able to adjust, and sometimes we have to adjust sooner versus later. But placing that strategic plan in place help us to be able to guide us for future years in regards to where we see us being able to service the organization and how to be able to get there. So that's our roadmap.
Wow. Okay, that's a large responsibility. Um, in what ways are you leveraging predictive analytics to anticipate workforce risks such as retirements, skill shortage, or cultural fractures? And I use that question because
Hmm.
working in many areas within higher education that I did for mega 40 plus years, I learned that many times organizations' actions don't match and align with their written organizational values. And so, how does these insights shape executive decision making or your decision making, as the head of HR?
Well, I would say that our company values as a whole, hold is very simple. It's not very complex, which is build community, getting better, and doing what's right. So getting better every day, and so every action, every interaction that we have with individuals, how can we do to improve to make it better than the action that we had from before? Building community. So there's things that we have started here at our organization, which we've already always given back to our community. But a couple of years ago, we started what was called HU Impact Day, which gives the opportunity for not only our employees, but their family members or whomever would like to be able to participate on one set day where we go out in our community to be able to give back in service, whether it's with a school and painting or landscaping or what have you, of giving back into our community from that standpoint. Um, Now, as it relates to like succession planning and so forth, we've always done some succession planning. I would say initially when I started with Huntsville Utilities about 12 years ago, it was more paper and it was more focused on top leadership. Um, a few years back, that succession planning had changed from going all the way from top leadership all the way down to front line. And now we have some systems in place within our HRS system to where we have a succession planning module to where we're able to do that electronically. But also we have career pathways that have been established to where individuals and employees know, okay, well, this position either has a progression to where I can go from level 1 to level 2. And if there is the level 3, that's something that I'm going to have to interview for, to where my position may not be set up on a progression position. So if there is another opportunity within that role, then there is something that I will have to be able to interview for.
Wow. After, you know what, I'm gonna kind of add this or ask this question.
Hmm.
I hadn't prepared this one, but when you were talking, I'm just curious, how do you deal with difficult employees when they have skill shortage or poor evaluations? In essence, they're not a good fit for the company, but you have to go through all of these steps in order to try to help them to improve or ultimately terminate the employment.
Well, a lot of times what happens is, and where this coming in at is developing performance improvement plans for those individuals that may be struggling in some areas, and having those check-ins, whether that performance improvement plan is for 90 days or 180 days, and then establishing how often you're going to meet to be able to provide that feedback so that that employee knows that they are either on the right track or there's still more work to be done. Um, in addition to that, with the performance improvement plan, it can be coupled with corrective action, depending upon the nature of the infraction for the employee. Um, as it relates to like skills shortages and so forth, or skills gap, we try and be proactive and catch some things on the front end. So there are some areas within like our operations department, there are skills tests that have been developed. We also have something that's called work keys, where all high school students in the North Alabama area take, to where there are certain areas where there is math or reading comprehension or graphics, literacy, what have you, to be able to try and catch some of that stuff on the front end. And then just partnering with the schools So we started a program in human resources a couple of years ago. It was initially called Power Your Future, where we worked and partnered with a Title I school to be able to expose high school students to the utilities industry, because sometimes college is not for everyone. And so this provides an opportunity to where those individuals that may not be pursuing college can still make a good salary to be able to support for their families, as well as being able to grow within some of these roles. So partnering with the schools, that program now is called Pipeline to Success, and then partnering with some of our local community colleges and so forth as it relates to apprenticeship programs and everything that we have established in our different areas of operations, to be able to have that in place. And just recently, we started a engineering rotation program for engineers, regardless if your degree is in electrical engineering or mechanical engineering or chemistry, what have you, for them to rotate in all areas of our operations area. That gives them that exposure and that experience. It makes them more well-rounded and more of like a journalist, is what I would say, so that you know a little bit of something about everything.
Wow, that is a great answer. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
recall working in higher education because that's primarily what I know
Hmm.
and have known for decades. There's been always this discussion about whether tenure, for instance, is valuable versus, and I'm sure you've heard that, where some people feel that, you know, tenure allows academics to become lazy or not productive, and, you know, all of these things here and there. And so that's been a debate that I've been at the table with many administrators and stakeholders and state legislators talking about that particular issue. And in fact, in many parts of the United States now, I think more of the southern areas, tenure is being eliminated as a way of not giving long-term permanent employment to college professors. Now, when I was coming up, that was like the dream, you know, to get a 10-year job. But I like the fact that you said something earlier that I have my own feelings on that, but I like, and of course, I'm probably going to represent the employees because, you know, I'm such an historic academic. But, you know, I like the fact that you said that, you know, with your employees, you try to deal with skill shortages early in their career development so that in essence, you sort of offset problems down the line. I'm
Hmm.
not sure that the institution of academia does that well enough, where we always somehow have all of these problems at the end when you should have really caught a lot of things early. So I
Hmm.
commend you for your ability to be part of an organization that is more strategic. Because I believe that's one of the areas within higher education. Because higher education has this is a big issue in higher education all the time, where you feel like you have an academic that's in a classroom teaching, and they don't know what they're doing, but you can't get rid of them. And I know for us it would cost something like $1 million or so to terminate somebody, you know, and generally you still can't terminate them. You have to just send them someplace else. So,
Mm.
you know, it becomes very arduous, you know, and it becomes debatable. So I
Hmm.
appreciate that answer. Thank you.
I
Uh,
remember when you were talking about tenure, I remember as a little girl in elementary school, and our teachers talking about those that had reached tenure. And when they were talking about tenure, they were talking about, I think, more a line of like tenure within our state retirement plan
Mhm.
for teachers. But it did appear from that point in time to where even though when they were referencing tenure, that it was hard to be able to get rid of them as well. Like, well, I'm tenured now. Like, okay, it's going to be a little bit harder if
Oh, it is.
I'm not really doing my job that I'm supposed to be doing to get rid of me.
Yeah, it is very challenging. It's almost next to impossible. I don't support lazy academics. I never have, because I was a very good one,
Hmm.
and I never supported lazy academics. The challenge was, my question was always kind of going back to what you said earlier. Well, if the person is incompetent now, what happened in his interviews? Because when you write an interview in academia, when you write a you have an interview, there's all these politics that go around. And so instead of people telling the truth, they lie on the actual employee evaluation form. I mean, they do. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I have debated that I knew were not going to be effective academics within my own college that I was at for close to 40 some years. And but this person had partnered emotionally with the dean, or had partnered emotionally with some other faculty members, and the way the union contract was written, you know what, even though I may have been the chair of the committee, the chair couldn't necessarily, the chair was the voice but not the authority. And so that person would work, and then 4 or 5 years down the line, you have all of these performance problems with this person, but you've just said they were great.
Right. Exactly.
And so that becomes an ethical issue, which brings me to this other question. What ethical frameworks guide your decision making when navigating conflicts between organizational priorities, employee rights, and public accountability?
Well, first of all, um, anything that is unethical, everybody gets the same playbook. And when I say playbook, that means handbook of our policy standards and procedures. And regardless of your position or your role, if you are doing something that is unethical, whether you are at the top of the company or at the bottom of the company, it's going to be investigated. And part of that investigation, there's various different investigating arms that we have here at our organization. But looking at the facts and determining, from those facts, if there were ethical violations. And then from those ethical violations, reviewing to determine, okay, well, what has happened in the past? What kind of infraction that did these individuals receive? If they made the same ethical violation, was it corrective action or was it immediate termination? So that we are consistent in our application across the organization, no matter of what your role is. So just because you're a leader, that doesn't mean that you're exempt from ethical violations to where we're going to hold a different standard for a frontline employee. No, you're held to the same standard, so that we can make sure that consistency applies across the board.
Wow, thank you for that. Can you describe a time when you had to manage a high stakes labor or employee relations issue involving multiple stakeholders with competing interests, and how you balance transparency, confidentiality, and organizational stability?
Well,
That has to be a
I
difficult
won't
one.
say that's every day, but that has happened in every organization. At one point in time, I also used to work at a call center, and it was a 300 person seat call center. We were a regional call center, so it was not only locally, but we also serviced customers in different areas. And there have been, I would say, many situations to where it may have involved someone in leadership. Um, And you said balancing the stakeholders
with competing interests,
with competing interests. Um,
transparency,
it's
and having to be
it
confidential still.
yeah, it always comes down to doing what's right. And regardless of who the stakeholder is, they're still a human, so you need to treat everybody with dignity and respect. Um, so in human resources, confidentiality is a big factor. And if you are not able to keep things confidential, if you're one that gossip, human resources is not the place for you to be in, because that is a must. That's a competency that you must have, because there are going to be situations. Of course, you see everything across the whole entire organization, and what's going on. And sometimes you hear things, and sometimes HR gets blamed for things and say, oh, well, you fired such and such, whatever. But you can't sit there and combat and say, well, no, that's not true. This is what happened. You have to maintain that confidentiality. And like I said, the dignity and respect of that person. And then, like I have told, my HR colleagues and employees that work in the HR department is, sometimes there are going to be some things to where they're going to say about HR that may not actually be true, or we did X, Y, and Z, but it's not really our job to set the record straight, especially if someone was terminated, and they have told a different reason of why they were terminated. People are gonna believe, what they want to, as long as we know the truth and what has occurred. It's not our responsibility to, I would say, twist or turn this story into a matter to where then it becomes a back and forth, and also you're at that point in time leaking out information that should not be leaked out.
That sounds like, I'm sure in your auspicious appointment job as the human resource director, you've come across crisis quite often. And even when they're not crisis, utility companies face unique crises such as natural disasters, infrastructure failures, and public scrutiny. People complaining. How have you, as a director, built a HR infrastructure capable of rapid mobilization, offering psychological support and operational continuation during such events?
Well, I would say, like, in 2011, I was not actually working for the utility, like when we had a tornado that came through. However, just like when I recruit for any positions for individuals to come in on my team to work in human resources, I explain to them that to look at the utility company kind of like a hospital. We are open 24 hours a day. Even though the administration building may be closed, someone is still here working. If there is a severe disaster or something at that point in time, then it becomes all hands on deck. And just because you work in HR, it's not a matter of that's not my job. You pitch in and help out wherever it's needed. So if that means that we're answering phone calls, if we're serving lunches, whatever we have to do, because we all um, come in together like a family, to be able to help out and to be able to support our community. And so if that's something that does not align with the individual and something that they want to do, then for this industry and in the department that I oversee, then that's not the right fit for the individual to be on our team.
Wow. Dr. Brown, executive influence and cross-cultural alignment. As an HR director, how do you influence your executive peers, engineering, operations, finance, IT, to align with people-centered strategies when their priorities may be driven by technical, regulatory, or budgetary pressures?
Well, for one, you have to be able to listen, excuse me, and have those conversations. So, one of the things that I did was I started what's called a director's roundtable. And within that roundtable, we share information, projects that we may be working on, things that we may be struggling with, questions that we may have, or to be able to gain clarity on something. Well, why does HR does do this? Or if I feel like HR doesn't let me do blah blah blah. First of all, HR can't. It's not like we're your parent, and having a whip. You can do anything that you want. So one of the things that I have always shared with our leadership here is that come to HR, talk to us, let us know what you're trying to do. Essentially, we'll help you be able to get there, but to do it in the right way, in the right manner. So if you're doing something and then call us on the back end to play cleanup, there's some lessons to be learned in that. But if you bring us in to the conversation on the front end, then we can strategize together. And everybody is on the same loop. In the same loop. We've been able to talk and walk through it and say, okay, because your focus may be just on A, but have you considered B, C, D, E? Is often times when you have your department and you're so focused on your department and the needs of your department, you may not have really considered the trickle down effects or the after effects of how it may affect another department or another area, what have you. So sitting down, having those conversations, strategizing, brainstorming together, and having more than one mind, so you have that diversity of thought, so that you kind of think of like everything. And there may be some times where some things that you didn't think about. But as I communicate to like our all new employees that have opportunity to be able to stand in front of, if I'm not traveling or anything, is I tell them to remember the acronym of CEO when we're making decisions, and that stands for customers, employees, and the organization. How is it going to affect our customers? How is it going to affect our employees? How is it going to affect the organization overall? But it's very important to be able to build those relationships, build the trust, be consistent, and just communicate, and talk things through in regards to whatever the technical lens that they're looking at or trying to get to, and us looking at it from a people-centered side.
I have just two more questions, and thank you for that answer.
You're welcome.
And this is always a tricky one that I try to ask most of the folks that I interview, especially professionals and academics, around balancing an equalized environment versus a DEI environment. Because that brings, let's see, I can see you looking, oh wow, because that brings up that brings up politics and so many different emotions and culture, and sometimes it could be racially charged misunderstandings and all. But I would be curious to know, how have you been able to equalize your work with your employees versus this pressure of accepting DEI or not accepting DEI? I know nationwide, especially within California, that is a huge matter, and it then becomes Democrat versus Republican and all this stuff. So I would be curious just to see how a professional with your auspicious background, how have you been able to address issues such as that?
Well, for one thing, I think you have to be able to have honest conversations with one another. And sometimes you may have to put some guidelines or some parameters, around it, because some people will say that they will have honest conversations, but then walk away with their feelings hurt. And you have to be able to realize that there's all a common goal, that we are trying to get there, and we're all going to have a different thought of how to be able to get to that common goal. So just appreciating and respecting um, the way that Dr. Kris does it versus the way that Mary Ann does it. Um, you know, so it's not going to be the same. And honestly, you don't want somebody to have the same. You don't want a bunch of Chris's walking around or a bunch of Sylvesters walking around, with the same exact thought, because that would be a boring world.
That's right.
And what makes us interesting is because we are different. From male to female to race to national origin, but that's what makes us uniquely us.
That's right.
And appreciating that uniqueness, and when other individuals or individuals do not appreciate the uniqueness, being the bigger person, and you know not sitting there having some debates with them, to where that regardless of what you're going to say, they're not going to be receptive of the information. So it's almost like talking to a brick wall. But if you can sit down and have those conversations with individuals and, kind of explaining, we're all here to get to a common goal. We may arrive to that goal or to the end of the street, taking different ways, but we're meeting at the end of the street, regardless of how we got there.
That's right. What a wise professional you are. That was a great answer. Do you
Thank
have
you.
are there any final thoughts or ideas you would like to communicate with our digital audience, just around the complexities and or joys of
hmm
being in human resource?
Um, I'll just share a little bit about when I was in high school and determining what I wanted to do or what I want to be when I grow up. Because originally, when I was a little girl, it's like, oh, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a lawyer because I have an uncle that's an attorney. Well, during my final year of school, I got with some different individuals within my family. I got with the attorney. I got with the person that worked in IT, because I had an interest in that as well. I got with the person that was actually working in human resources and had those discussions with them. And I also had thought about doing physical therapy as well. So you can see that it goes from like one end of the spectrum to another. um, but in having conversations with those individuals, especially the individuals that I had spoke to about IT, and when they would tell me about their job and how they don't really have a lot of interaction with people and so forth, whatever, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not for me. But when I talked to the individual that worked in human resources, that sparked my interest because it had a little bit of legal, had a little bit of medical, from the safety, workers' comp side of it. You have a little bit of IT on it from dealing with HRS. You have the employee engagement. You have employee relations. If I loved math, I could be in compensation all day long, dealing with numbers, the benefit side of it. But at the end, I'm helping someone. Either you're helping someone at the beginning and the start of their career, or you're helping someone to be able to transition out of their career to where they're headed to retirement and enjoying the rest of their life. So that's what intrigued me and got me into human resources, is having all those different facets, but at the end of the day, being able to help someone with their livelihood.
Wow. Dr. Brown, you have truly helped me this today because you
Well,
have
thank you.
shared some wonderful perspectives and you're such a pleasant professional. As the CEO of this podcast, I wish you nothing but much continued success. I must be honest, I didn't know. I know a lot about, I shouldn't say a lot about human resources, but I've engaged with many human resource professionals from the academic world, you know, but I was so excited to be able to interview you from the professional and the utility world, you know,
Mhm.
but you have really shared with me, along with my audience, some wonderful principles. But one thing that really stands out to me is when you said customer, employee, and organization. You know, the CEO. I never defined CEO as such, but what a wonderful way to end our interview and our conversation. God bless you. Thank you for all that you do. And we have to recommend you to come and be the human resource director for one of these colleges in California. Because trust me, they need some guidance. Very much
Well,
so. God
thank
bless
you. I
you.
appreciate
And
that.
thank you. And we'll be hopefully talking to you soon.
Thank you.
God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
You too as well.
Bye bye now.
Bye bye.